All right, I reckon many of y'all have heard the song Take Me to Church by Hozier. Catchy tune, good arrangement, good vocals and stuff. But as far as the lyrics, Hozier wants to attack Christianity, namely Catholics, on the views of sexuality, and especially homosexuality. If you wanted to make a statement about homosexuality, why didn't you use that song to call out the Muslims? I guess Take Me to Church is a lot more catchy than a song called Take Me to Mosque.
I think with that propaganda.
So the hook says, take me to church. I'll worship like a dog at the shrine of your lies. Worship like a dog? Churches aren't really occupied by people engaged in a ritual of getting down on all fours. However, getting down on all fours in a display of worship is a ritual of Islam. The next line says, I'll tell you my sins and you can sharpen your knife. Christianity doesn't stab people for sinning. Muslims take knives to transgressors, especially to them homosexuals. But I get it. You're judging Christianity because of the laws they have in Russia. That's the state making those laws, not the church. And the Russian government doesn't answer to the church. You're barking up the wrong tree. Your whole song barks up the wrong tree. Hozier says that expressing yourself sexually is what makes us human. He compares the sexual experience to something to worship. And when you make sex your god, murder follows. Since in your song you give a nod to paganism, I guess you ignore that people have made human sacrifices to fertility goddesses. People will murder for sex. Murder often follows rape because people put such a premium on sexual release. The reason why God tells us to have no other gods before him is because people will do detestable things to appease the gods they've made in their image. Whereas God doesn't tell us to murder. God does not force us to accept his way. If there were tribes doing things like child sacrifice, sexual entitlements, bestiality, cannibalism, virgin sacrifice, incest, etc., God would have them put to the sword because they were already a culture of death. He didn't have them killed for not worshiping him. He had them killed because they found pleasure in the abuses they inflicted upon each other. I make no excuses for people who claim to be Christian and violate others while violating the commandment to not take God's name in vain, justifying their own actions in his name. But Hozier wants to pass judgment on Christians, namely Catholics, for their stances concerning sex, while Christians are working to liberate children from sex trafficking from people who worship sex. He's singing about his worship of sex and condemning Christians. And I'm not judging. I totally understand the driven celebration of sex. Whenever my wife calls, I'm like, booty call. But Hozier exalts sex to a level of worship and is ignorant in that he's endorsing that some people murder for sex when their esteem for it is that high. I'm pretty sure he and his fam think that that's ridiculous and that his lyrics are harmless. But while he's judging Christians for their conservative view of sex, Christians are helping women recover from the brink of suicide because of what they allowed themselves to be subject to in the porn industry and in prostitution. And they allowed themselves to be subject to people like you who worship sex. And I'll remind you, you'll be hard-pressed to find a rapist that doesn't like to watch porn. The song is popular, but what really launched its popularity was the video. Two dudes humping each other. And a mob comes in and beats one of them to death or something. And I guess the mob is supposed to be a posse of pious Christians. Hozier had a video where he hired some actors to make this dramatization of mean old counterfeit Christians dusting off a homosexual. Meanwhile, there's actual footage of Muslims executing homosexuals. They're following what they believe the Hadith instructs. Show us where Jesus tells us to murder homosexuals. But y'all, the culture falls for stuff like this. Their opinion is being turned on Christians and conservatives because of songs like this helping along the process. And a lot of y'all say, who cares about this stuff? The video for this song, as of now, has over 190 million views. Liberalism represents in the culture, y'all. This is what's supported. They've got support of morning shows like Today, a TV show that claims to bring you the latest headlines and expert tips on money, health, and parenting. We wake up every morning to give you and your family all you need to start your day. That's just what parents need for their kids, a song of animus against Christianity by a dude who worships sex over God. The left throws out platforms for people like this to sing the secularist humanist message to the masses. And the closest conservative seems to come to offering a challenge to that is Mike Huckabee playing bass guitar on Fox News. Don't get me wrong, I dug it, but that's it. Hozier borrows a point that God creates us to be sick, then commands us to be well. Then he has the nerve to say, I'll worship like a dog at the shrine of your lies. The one worshiping at the shrine of lies is you, as you drink the poison of those apart from God. That ain't Sunday poison you're drinking. It's secular poison. God didn't create us sick. Adam and Eve weren't created sick. They were immortal. That's pretty freaking healthy. But they were given free will. And like you, they were suckered to believe something that wasn't true. Are you calling free will a sickness? Would you want someone to love you because they were forced or by choice? Surely you wouldn't want to love God by force, nor does he want your forced love. God didn't make us sick. We made ourselves sick. God gives us his commandments and sent his son as the curative so we don't keep imposing our sickness on the others. The sickness of stealing, slander, covetousness, adultery, murder. We're all infected with the potential to do these things. Man wasn't created this way. It's an infection we inherited and a disease that's managed by adhering to the law of God, whose ultimate commandment is much more than be well, human, that I supposedly created sick. His commandment is to love each other. And the best way to love people is to love God, because God is the author of love. When we try to love according to the variations of what we think love is, people suffer. People think that love is expressed by fornication, and often it leaves people not feeling loved, but used, and more incomplete than before when they thought they needed to have sex to feel a sense of completeness. Or it leaves a girl pregnant and on her own to raise a kid. Or it leaves a kid to be killed by abortion because we choose to love according to us instead of by the one who authored it. When we try it our way, we get possessiveness, obsessiveness, codependence, abusiveness, disease, etc. Love is like the most powerful force, yet you think you can partake in it without consulting the author of it? And Hozier accuses us of being on a high horse. If you think you know better than the Almighty who authored it, then the one on a high horse is you. I'm Alfonso Rachel with Zonation, and my band's gonna get even more edgy and get a couple of dudes to get all Brokeback Mountain on each other in our next video. And Annie Lennox can come do a cameo in it to reward us for our bravery. Booty call.